Hello, Mr. K here. We're talking about fundamentals of engine design today, and more particularly, we're talking about two strokes and four strokes. Okay, so let's jump into it. I'll let that GIF play for just a second. It's kind of neat. That is a four stroke, by the way. Both of those on the screen are four strokes. We'll talk about it. Okay. So we're going to show the four strokes or cycles of the automotive engine is the biggest reason why we're here today. We talk about where you find two and four strokes, how do you identify them, and some issues of each one, okay, because nothing's perfect. All right, at this time, go ahead and pause my video and watch this one. Okay, should just watch that video. Hopefully that gives you a little understanding about four-stroke engines. So to sum it up, the ASE answer to this is that the four strokes of a four-stroke engine are intake, compression, power, and exhaust, as you see in the chart there. However, I'll give you a little tip. My teacher in college told us all this, and for some reason, it just helped us remember intake, compression, power, exhaust. We remembered it a little better than remembering those four terms. So he said, suck, squeeze, bang, blow. Okay. For some reason, those terms just stuck better than the intake, compression, power, and exhaust. So if you want to remember the suck, squeeze, bang, blow, that's fine. But you really need to remember intake, compression, power, and exhaust in the end, because that's what the test questions are. So let's talk about two strokes. At this point in time, go ahead and pause my video and watch this one. All right, you should have just watched that video. That's all about two strokes. So to sum up, I don't have names for the two-stroke strokes. I guess the two strokes of a two-stroke engine. I don't have the official names for that because you could probably combine them so much that they'd probably sound kind of funny. But just keep in mind that every time the piston comes up on a two-stroke engine, the spark plug fires and it gets power, drives the piston down and powers the motor. Okay, every time. So again, where do we find four strokes? Well, my basic answer to this is everywhere two strokes are outlawed or banned. So boats, cars, motorcycles, tractors, lawnmowers, anything. I mean, any four-wheelers, trenchers, whatever you could think of, probably has a four-stroke engine, except for a couple things. We'll talk about that in another slide. Automobiles, of course. So pretty much everything, especially if it's made in the last 20 years. Now, where do we find two strokes? Chainsaws and weed whackers are still two strokes. I believe they do make four-stroke versions of those, but most of them that I see are still two strokes. Okay, those are pretty reliably a two-stroke engine. But of course, older things, older engines, you see a lot of two strokes, like outboard motors, snowmobiles, dirt bikes. And yes, John Deere used to make snowmobiles, and they were some of the best quality snowmobiles ever made, in my opinion. Okay, so how do I identify a four-stroke? If you have an engine sitting in front of you, how can we tell whether it's a two or a four-stroke? Well, first of all, this one gives it away because this is a valve cover or a rocker arm cover. And you wouldn't have valves if it was a two-stroke, because remember, a two-stroke doesn't have valves. It just has holes in the side of the cylinder wall where gases flow in and out. Four-stroke has those valves, okay? So this right here says OHV, so that's overhead valve. Some of them say OHC, overhead cam. But the point is, if it's got a weird-looking cover here hanging off the front of the motor or the side of the motor, especially if it says OH something, it's probably a four-stroke. Another example of a 4-stroke motor, think of just a Chevy V8, just your plain old V8 engine that's in a Camaro or a Corvette or a truck or something. It looks about like this, and it's got, again, these big covers on top. Those covers are covering rocker arms, which are covering valves. Right there, there's your valves. In fact, there's your valve train, there's your timing chain that drives the camshaft, which drives the valves. So indirectly, of course, but so there you go, 4-stroke. Look for those big valve covers. Remember, we see it on here. We just saw it on this motor too. Same thing, valve cover. Gas caps on a 4-stroke. This is a little less reliable method, but it's a good hint. 4-stroke engines usually just says use unleaded fuel only, or it's got a picture of a gas can or something like that. Because 4-strokes just run on fuel, run on gas. Okay, another thing you can do, pull the spark plug out and look down inside. This can be kind of difficult, but if you have a good quality light, flashlight, and you got the right angle, you can see the cylinder wall. If you see a cylinder wall that looks like this, it's probably a 4-stroke. Okay, it's a nice, clean, smooth cylinder wall. You see one that looks like this, it's got big holes in it. That's a 2-stroke, because remember, there aren't valves in a 2-stroke. They cut holes in the side of the cylinder wall, and that's where the gases flow in and out. So that's another way to check. In fact, this is probably the most reliable way of all to differentiate a 2 versus 4-stroke, is by looking at the cylinder wall. And of course, we talked about gas caps on 4-strokes. So take a look at a 2-stroke gas cap. You have to mix gas and oil on 2-strokes, okay? Because they burn the oil with the gas. You're going to see gas caps that look like this most of the time, not always, most of the time. I've got a Yamaha jet ski that's 2-stroke, and the gas cap just has a Yamaha symbol on it, and nowhere around there does it even say you have to mix oil with the gas. So it's kind of a dangerous game. If you don't know what you're doing, you could ruin the motor. So of course I stuck a big sticker on it with a label maker that says mix gas and oil, just as a reminder for myself. So it's not always true, but a lot of times you'll see gas with a little oil symbol, or see gas and oil 50-1, 50 parts gasoline to 1 part oil by volume. Fuel and oil tells you right on the gas cap. That's another clue. Now let's talk about problems with them, because of course nothing in life is perfect. 4-stroke engines, probably the biggest drawback is they just have a lot of junk to go wrong. They're very complex. Remember, these valves don't exist on a 2-stroke, so that means valves. This doesn't really have rocker arms on this one, it appears. I guess these would be cam followers, but valves, cam followers, valve springs, camshaft, cam sprocket, timing belt tensioner, all that stuff does not exist on a 2-stroke. So it's a bunch of junk, okay? They're more complex, which also means they're more expensive to make, also means they're heavier. Okay, you could probably go on with this list, but so those are the main downsides of 4-strokes. 2-stroke issues. Well, you got to mix oil and gas, remember, and that's kind of a pain in the butt. So you got to do that. Another thing is the pollution. Okay, that's probably the #1 downside of them. That's why they're outlawed in so many places, why they're kind of fading away. Because if you go on a trail ride with a group of dirt bikes, you're going to be able to tell the guy that's got, or girl that's got a 2-stroke, because it's going to look like that. The exhaust stinks on them. It makes your clothes stink for the rest of the day. Some people say it smells good, but it does smell. It's strong. Again, mostly outlawed. We talked about that. All right. So that kind of sums up the 2 versus 4 strokes. Go ahead and complete your assignment at this time, and have a good day.